the things that I've let go of are the things that I kind of suck at. And even though I hung on to them because I thought I needed to do it, and I thought it was really difficult to do those things, it was only difficult for me to do those things because they weren't things that were natural for me. And so over time, I've let go of more and more of things that seem really hard and complicated and only I can do it, and handed them to people who, to them, it's their thing that they were wired to do. It's how God created them to thrive in areas that I'm not able to be good at. And so for one, it becomes easier when you recognize that there's people out there who are better at certain things, and they're the things that I'm not good at and I probably don't even like to do. And so over time, my role has shifted to be things that I absolutely love to do. And it's like, is this really work? Because I just love the stuff that I get to work on every day. And that's the move. And then the other thing is,
welcome, Jeremy, to the Master Delegator podcast.
Thanks, Christy. It's good to be here.
Yes. I mean, I know we've been wanting to do this for a long time. I was on your podcast, and you're a great host, by the way. And
Thank you.
Now the tables have turned. You're now on my podcast. And I feel like this is perfect timing, actually, because you are now doing, a different venture than your first business. So I'm really excited to hear more about that. And I'm sure our listeners today also want to know more about you. So let's start by you introducing yourself.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm Jeremy Harrison. I am the founder of a marketing agency called Spire. We're a strategy-first agency based in Northern Ohio. We've been in business for, almost 20 years, like 19 plus years now. And I also, in addition to that, have recently become, like you were mentioning, a professional EOS implementer. And so sometimes helping businesses with marketing strategy that can help them grow isn't the only thing that gets in the way. And so now I'm able to work with their leadership teams and help businesses strengthen the foundation of their businesses through the work that I'm doing with EOS.
I love that. And I feel like you're the perfect person to give advice when it comes to how to build a business, because not only the professional side of the business, but personally, you've also dealt with some of the challenges in your business, and also in your life, personal life as an entrepreneur. So you've been in the industry for like 19 years already. So the people that you are going to be talking to, I'm sure they're going to get a lot of value from you. And it's not just value that can be Googled. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of business coach nowadays, I know they're not perfect, but some business coaches as well, they also just Google whatever problems, come their way. But with you, I feel like, I'm sure you Google sometimes, because we don't know everything, but you had so many real life experiences that you can share to other people. So I want to know about the struggles or the challenges you had in the business, because you've been growing your business, or you've been running your business for 19 years now. So what are some of the challenges, and how were you able to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, I think there's been a number of things over the years. And I think the first really big struggle was that I started my business just like a year and a half before the Great Recession. And so I started it, and we got off to a strong start, and we had
that was 2008, right?
It was 2006 is when I started the business, and it's sort of like, 08, 09 would have been the Great Recession.
Right.
And so we had employees, and we were rocking and rolling, and then all of a sudden things dried up in a major way across the board, and it was a domino effect, and all types of businesses were hit. And so we were in a really difficult place where, I wasn't sure sometimes how I was going to make payroll at the end of the week, how we were going to keep things moving. But there were some things that I was able to do during that time. I won't get into that right now, but to sort of adapt and to get out there and teach and to help people figure out how they could get through these things as well, which I think strengthened our business during that time. And it also set us up to be able to grow on the other side. And the interesting thing is that I used to think, well, gosh, once the business starts growing, everything will get easy. But really, there's like feast and famine, and there's problems in both. And so there were different challenges on the other side once we got through that hard season, because the business was growing fast. And that created different sets of challenges for the business, where my office was a revolving door. The complexity of the business as things grew, things got more complex. And it seemed like it just took more and more energy for me as a leader to sustain that growth and to keep it going. And then, yeah, there were challenges more recently with that we can get into as well if you want to, just some things that happened well, first of all, we put EOS in place in our business in 2019 and 2020, and that really helped me get things off of my shoulders and helped us grow in a way where it wasn't all like it was able to grow, and other people were able to help shoulder in ways that I was hesitant to let go of before. And so that was a big thing. But then that was tested in late 2023, where we had two of the biggest challenges that we'd ever faced in the business, and back to back, just weeks apart, that I don't believe if we hadn't figured some of these things out sooner in the business, I don't think that we could have survived that season.
Right. Would you mind sharing those two challenges that you had experienced back to back?
Sure. Yeah. So there were two things that happened. The first is that we found out that we were going to be losing our biggest client. And this was a client that when they came in, it was a nice sized client. But they grew from 2 locations to 60 locations over a period of a few years. And so their budget with us essentially grew 30x, and they had become a really big chunk of our business. And so we felt good about it because we had good relationships with their owners and with everybody in the business. But they got acquired. And so we found out with pretty short notice that the company that had acquired them already had a vendor for their marketing and sales strategy. And so we were going to be losing a pretty big chunk of our revenue. We're going to have to make some hard decisions. Before those decisions got made, the second thing happened, which was that my son, who was starting his senior year of high school, died of an accidental fentanyl-related overdose. And suddenly I was in a place where I couldn't think about my business, and I couldn't think about the things that needed to happen to get through that season that we were going through. I just needed to be home and grieve, and nothing else was really on my mind. But fortunately, because we had some things in place on the business side, the leadership team was able to step up, and they were able to make the hard decisions, and they executed on those decisions. And when I was in a complete fog and I couldn't think about the business, they saved my company. And so I recognized on the other side that that had I not been able to let go of some things earlier in the business, that there's no way that, even though he'd grown every year, there's no way that we would have made it through that difficult season.
Yeah, wow. Those two situations, were really challenging. So professionally and then personally, so what did you do, especially when you lost your biggest client? How did you survive? Like, what are the things that you did in order for the business to survive while at the same time you're grieving, right?
Well, I mean, you have to understand, Christy, I didn't do anything. Like, I was in a position where I was in a place where I couldn't even think about the business. And so if the business completely fizzled during that time, I would have let it, because I didn't have any ability or energy or clarity to be able to think about the business stuff. And so I think it's not so much about what I did then, but it was about what I and our team was able to do a few years prior to that.
Wow.
And that was when we had put some things in place with the EOS. I told you I'm an EOS implementer. We had put this in place in our business first, and worked with somebody else who helped us get that in place. And it brought clarity. For example, we brought somebody in who is the general manager of Spire, and her role is to run the day-to-day operations of the business and to make those decisions. And there's somebody else that I used to handle all of sales and marketing for our own company, because I was obsessive compulsive about that stuff. But I'd let go of those things, and there was another person that leads that. And so there are different people and there's another person that leads the finances of the business. And so getting in place where there's different people that led different parts freed me up to be the visionary of the company, to be a problem solver, a high level guy. But it allowed, when that hard thing happened and I literally couldn't do anything to think about the business, they all had clarity of what their roles were and were able to step up and handle
That's
it.
good. That's good. I mean, it's also perfect timing that you had already implemented EOS in your business, right? Because without it,
Yeah.
your business wouldn't be able to survive during
Yeah.
those difficult times. So EOS means Entrepreneurial Operating System, and
Yep.
I like that system actually. I read the book Traction by
Yes.
Gino
Gino
Wickham.
Wickman. Yep.
Wickman, Wickman.
Yep.
Uh, it's not Wickham, it's Phil Wickham that I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
The singer. Yeah, so Gino Wickman. So it's really a great book. I mean, I'm not really implementing EOS literally in my business, but since I had read the book, I picked up some, strategies and, recommendations on how to run my business like a well-oiled machine. So you
Yeah.
implemented that in your business in 2020, right? So I
Yes.
want to talk about who was Jeremy Harrison before EOS. Were you sort of like a chaotic leader? I kind of want to know sort of like your before and after, kind of like your turning point before implementing EOS.
Yeah. Um, so the chaotic leader thing hasn't changed. I've always been that way. I'm a little scatterbrained. I'm a creative guy. I'm a little disorganized, and I think I have ADHD, and so I think that
I feel like a lot of us can relate to that.
yes, I think it's true. I think a lot of entrepreneurs and visionary leaders that kind of goes with the territory. And so I think one thing that maybe forced me to delegate long before we'd done EOS was it was just the idea that like I can generate a lot of excitement and come up with strategic ideas for people, but when it comes time to execute on those ideas, like for our clients and different things like that, that's just never been much of a strength for me. And so I needed pretty early on to begin to delegate things to other people so that I could level up. And I think that so EOS was sort of like the next level because prior to that, there was this repeated process of recognizing the things that I was spending time on that were bogging me down and taking big chunks of my time, and trying to delegate the lower value work that I was doing so that I could create space for more of the higher value work, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, I just did that repeatedly. But I think there was always, until the EOS thing, it was always like, yeah, but when it comes to the finances of the business, or when it comes to the way our own company's marketing happens, or when it comes to just running how everything operates the company as a whole, that's stuff that I need to continue to lead. And so I never let go of those things. And so, but I think there's a progression to it. And I think it starts with, if there's someone who's watching or listening who is just starting a business, obviously maybe the first thing they do isn't just to hand off to somebody else to run the whole business, but there's probably things even at that level that they need to recognize that they could let go of and add value along the way.
Right. Yeah. I always tell people, when you come up with a business plan, always integrate, adding a team member, because sooner or later you won't be able to do a lot of things in the business, especially when you are already growing. So how
Yeah.
was the transition for you, from becoming somebody who loves to kind of do everything, and now you're hands off in the business, you
Mm-hmm.
let your team run the business for you. Like, what did you change? What perspective or mindset did you change in order to let go of control? Because you've been in the business for 19 years. So,
Mm-hmm.
and you implemented EOS in 2020. So you've been like handling the business, you're in the business for like 15 years. So
Yeah.
that's kind of hard, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So do you mean like, so for that final push with EOS of letting go of things, what
Yeah.
prompted that to happen?
Yeah. Like
Um,
how did you let go of control? Like, what is that
yeah.
one reason why you're like, okay, I'm just gonna surrender everything to my team
Yeah.
because you
I
realize
think,
something or whatever?
yeah, no, I think something comes to mind here is that in 2017, um, Spire, my marketing agency, we were recognized as a Weatherhead 100 company here in Northeast Ohio, one of the fastest growing 100 companies in Northeast Ohio. And so we went to this event where we were getting to meet entrepreneurs and leaders of 99 other fast growing companies in Northeast Ohio. And as I'm talking to people, I kept hearing people talk about this thing called EOS, and I didn't know what it was. And so we sat down at dinner, four of us from our company, and then there were four people from another company. And I said to the lady next to me, I'm like, what is this EOS thing that people are talking about? And she said, you haven't heard of that? She said, most of the fast growing companies in this room are running on EOS. And she's like, you need to order this book called Traction, the one that you read, Christy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember, like, while I was sitting at the banquet, I pulled out my phone and I went to Amazon and I ordered it, and it arrived the following Monday. And I remember I flipped open the book and I read the first chapter and I said, we're already doing this stuff. I don't need anything. And so I just put the book on the shelf and ignored it. But then what happened next was that over the next 2 years or so, we went from being one of the fastest growing companies in Northeast Ohio to doing what in EOS terms they call hitting the ceiling, where it was like, no matter how much energy and work we were putting in, we weren't able to we were still growing, but it was just like single digit, very small growth. And it was just so much more work, and it just felt like it wasn't happening anymore. And so I ended up on a flight somewhere and reading the book again and with fresh eyes. And I realized that there were a lot of things, had I read past chapter 1, there were a lot of things that we hadn't put in place in our business. And so I think that struggle for a couple of years after that moment when I'd ordered the book was sort of a breakthrough for me, where I wanted to keep growing. There was more vision that we wanted to achieve, and realized that I was going to have to let go of some more things for that to happen. And so that was when we called in an EOS implementer who worked with us over about 18 months to help us get things in place in our business.
That's good. Wow. I mean, sometimes we have to experience pain before we take some actions, right?
Oh, totally.
So sometimes pain can be helpful, but hopefully to our listeners, don't wait for the pain to arrive. If you can already anticipate, the problem, and you already know what you need to do to grow your business. But it's part of running a business, growth pains, birth pains, right? There are different types of pains.
Yes.
Endless pains.
Yes.
Okay, tell us about the entrepreneurial operating system. Like, what's so good about it, and why do we need to apply it in our business?
Yeah. EOS focuses on really three things: vision, traction, healthy. So vision is about getting everybody in the organization on the same page about where the organization's headed and how you plan to get there. And you may feel like, I used to feel like as an entrepreneur, like, well, everybody knows where we're headed. I've told them where we're headed. But yet I would ask people and get frustrated that I had different answers from different people. And it's like, but I've talked about this, but you haven't. So one thing that it does is it really helps you get truly clear where everybody understands, because there's power. And if you can get everybody rowing in the same direction, understanding where we're headed and why and how, some amazing things can happen. The second part is traction, which is just about instilling discipline and accountability throughout an organization, so that the things that you intend to have accomplished are going to get done, and that people are doing that while rowing together. And then healthy it really starts with the core group of leaders in your organization. It's about building a healthy, cohesive, fun-loving team that really enjoys working together. And a lot of times that's just not the case as businesses grow and things get more stressful. And so it's also just about building that in and then cascading that throughout the whole organization, so that no matter where you look, you're going to see people that are on the same page about the vision. There's accountability and discipline, and people enjoy working together. And so those are kind of the core components of what EOS is all about. And we do that by helping strengthen 6 key components in a business. That if you can get these things happening strong with a set of tools and processes, disciplines that people learn to run in their business, then it can continue to happen. And what's interesting is there's a story where that is told in the book Traction, called Letting Go of the Vine. And so the idea is that an entrepreneur falls from a cliff and they catch a vine halfway down, and they're 1,000 feet up to the top, and it's 1,000 feet down, and and they kind of look up and say, is there anybody up there? Can anybody help? And a voice billows down from the heavens that says, do you believe? And he's like, yes, I believe. And he says, let go of the vine. And he looks up and he's like, is there anybody else up there? And I think that's the case with so many entrepreneurs, is that we're clinging on, and we're told, we watch, a podcast or listen to a podcast or whatever it might be. And we hear someone say that we should let go, but yeah, I mean, I could let go, but I don't trust what's going to happen when I let go. And so I think really a lot of these things about vision and accountability and building a healthy team is really about creating some structure in place that allows that leader to feel comfortable about letting go and trusting that the things are around them that's needed to be effective and successful.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's hard to let go.
Are you sick and tired of being overwhelmed and afraid you'll never scale your business? Meet Smart VAs. Unlike many virtual assistant agencies that only assign one dedicated virtual assistant, we provide flexibility for growing businesses by assigning a team of experienced virtual assistants that can do different tasks to support your continuous growth. Visit smartvas.online to book a free discovery call and start growing your business.
With you, while you were experiencing some personal, challenges in life, your team stepped in, right? And then you trusted your team to step in for you, and your team also cared so much about the company, and they're willing to put in extra work to save the company. So how did you build that kind of team? Because it's not easy to find a team that you trust and that trust you as well.
Yeah, I think that definitely takes time. And I think, I'd love to say, oh, we just hired the right person every time, for 19 years, but that totally wasn't the case. I mean, there were times that we made really big mistakes in some of those areas, and you could sense when you brought somebody in over time that it actually was hurting the culture and bringing down the,
right.
And so I think one thing that's important that we did even before EOS, although EOS helps people with this, was we got clear on our core values as an organization. And that's like it's not about how good someone is at their job. It's about who they are and how well they fit your culture. And so you could hire somebody who is crushing it with all the roles you've put on their job description to do, but they could still be not the right person. And so I think one thing that helped us was to clarify our core values. And we did that many years ago. But then over time, we began to fine tune them a little bit. Like we'd have somebody that were like, this person didn't work and we're not sure why. And we realized there was another core value that we had never actually gotten down on paper. And so we refined those core values over time so that we could be clear that we can point to these things with folks. It isn't always a dramatic, one of it is you can hire and fire based on core values. But I think another one is that you can just fine tune. You can pull an employee aside and say, hey, we feel you're a great fit for our team, but there's this one area where we feel like we need to work on a little bit. And when you've got the right people on your team, they're going to press into that and develop those areas that may have nothing to do with their job description, but has everything to do with how they operate as a part of your team.
Right, that's true. So as a leader, what are some of the things that you are doing, like practical ways you're currently doing to maintain that trust within your team?
Yeah, I think really Jessica, our general manager, gets a lot of credit for the things that happen on a day-to-day basis and the ways that that vision, that those core values get lived out, and the ways that we communicate with one another. Because I can be sort of a space cadet. Like I could come in all thinking about a creative idea that I'm working on and just be tuned out and miss things sometimes. But I think she does a better job of embodying those core values than I could. And so I think that's one thing. I think we take time as a team. There's a meeting pulse to what we do. And so every, the first few days, like super early in January, we gather the whole team off site and we talk about our vision for the year. We talk about our plan for the year and the things that we're working to achieve, and help everybody set some individual goals that they have to help us achieve those things as a company. We try to do a state of Spire every 90 days where we give an update on where we're headed and what our quarterly rocks, as we call them, are, and the things that we're going to be working on as a company and individually to keep things moving forward. And then try to just have a regular meeting rhythm with the teams throughout every week so that people stay lined up. And it's just those little things contribute to the weekly things contribute to the quarterly things, and the quarterly things contribute to the annual things, and the annual things contribute to the long-term vision that we have as a company.
I love that. I love that you have constant communication and check-ins, with your team, even though you're not the main person who's doing everything already. You still have those, check-ins to kind of see where everybody is heading and to make sure that everybody is heading in the right direction.
Right.
So, and since you have fully let go of control, and I know sometimes it's not like a one-time fully letting go of control. Sometimes it's constant, right? Because as our business grows, our responsibilities grow as well, and we need to delegate those new responsibilities as well. But in your case, like, since you have that mindset already that you need to let go of control, how did that make you feel as a person, as a business owner? Because other people, they cannot let go of control because first, they want to do everything. Second, they want everything done the way how they would do it.
Mm-hmm.
Third, I think it has something to do with authority as well, because they're the boss. So they don't want anybody sort of like surpassing them. But with you, kind of like Jessica is the boss now, and you said that, Jessica has her own strengths, and her strengths might be your weaknesses.
Totally.
So how do you deal with that, with your reputation as a boss, and just as a business owner, in general, just letting go of control, and some of your team members seeing this one person sort of like managing everything, and you're not in the business, you're on the business. Does that make sense?
I think it does. And I think there's two perspectives. I mean, one would be the head trash individually of me saying, am I comfortable letting go? The other would be, what does my team think about the idea that I've let go? Is that right?
Right.
I mean, both sides of that. So I think in both cases, it's more organic than you'd think. And here's what I mean is the things that I've let go of are the things that I kind of suck at. Right. And even though I hung on to them because I thought I needed to do it, and I thought it was really difficult to do those things, it was only difficult for me to do those things because they weren't things that were natural for me. And so over time, I've let go of more and more of things that seem really hard and complicated and only I can do it, and handed them to people who, to them, it's their thing that they were wired to do. It's how God created them to thrive in areas that I'm not able to be good at. And so for one, it becomes easier when you recognize that there's people out there who are better at certain things, and they're the things that I'm not good at and I probably don't even like to do. And so over time, my role has shifted to be things that I absolutely love to do. And it's like, is this really work? Because I just love the stuff that I get to work on every day. And that's the move. And then the other thing is how does the team feel? Well, they see it too, right? Like, they see that Jessica is way better at these things than I ever was. And so they also are excited about these things because now we have somebody that's better. Like, I'm a good leader, but I'm not a good manager. And so Jessica's a very good manager of people. And so, it's just a natural, organic thing. And it really just starts with letting go of the things that you don't really like to do and that you don't feel like you're as good at as other things.
Right. Yeah. And as a business owner, that is easy for you to accept, because for other people, it's not. They're about, I'm the boss here. Mm-hmm. I'm the best person in this company, and that is actually happening in real life. Like, other leaders or business owners are really like that. But in your case, it's easy for you to accept it because the vision right? You
Yeah.
know the goals that you want to achieve.
Yeah, I should clarify that it wasn't easy. I mean, it's
Okay.
because every single one of those letting go, like that letting go of the vine idea, every single
Uh-huh.
time your hands are shaking and you're like, can I really let go of this area? And there's always a tendency to want to swoop back in and the first time something goes awry and assume that I need to take back control of things again. But long term, if you can, systematically let go of, one thing after another, and begin to see other people thrive in them, it works.
Right. Yeah. Because in return, you may not be the one doing the task or the responsibility. You
Mm-hmm.
may not be good at it, but you are good at empowering other people. So you're empowering them to take on the reins, do the tasks
Right.
that you're not good at. And you're creating a team that is motivated to work on the task because they know that you trust them. So your other team members may see that, oh, Jeremy is weak in this area, he's not good at it and he's delegating it to other people. They may think that you're not good in that area, but they also feel or see that your leadership is really good because you're empowering other people. And I think that is what really is important in leadership, right? You
Right.
grow other people, you nurture them, and you trust them, you inspire them. I think for most business owners, when they delegate tasks to their team members, they're afraid that their team members might complain like, you're just delegating tasks to me again because you're lazy, you don't want to do this, blah, 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 blah. And that happens, But I feel like if you delegate properly and effectively, your team member will feel inspired.
Yes. And I don't have any statistics to back this up, Christy, but my theory is that people more often leave an organization because they're bored than they leave because they feel overloaded or overwhelmed with work. So I think more often than not, people that they have, or maybe they're piled on with the wrong kinds of things. That's the other part. But like there's superpowers that are hidden in every organization.
Right.
And you can hire somebody for a specific role, but they have other skills that they bring to the table. And to the extent that you can discover those things and utilize those things, it's going to light those people up. They're going to enjoy their work more because they're doing the things that they're wired to do. And so, yeah, I actually think that by holding back, and it is a thing that we tell ourselves as leaders, like, I don't want to dump this on somebody else. They'll think I'm lazy or they'll think that whatever. But a lot of that's not real because people want to feel like they're helping truly contribute to making a difference in the organization. And so, yeah, I more often will hear other leaders say, I'm worried that so-and-so is overloaded. But then you go to that person and say, how are you doing? I'm pretty full, but I've actually got room for a little bit more if you need it. And so oftentimes that's the case. So
I know, actually, even with my team members, because I see them, Regine, right?
yeah,
And Lexi. I don't know if you've met Lexi, but those
no,
two of my team members, they're kind of like my right and left hand, And so I see
yeah,
them so busy, their calendars are full. And I ask them, hey, you seem to be so busy this week. Do you need to cancel some of your internal meetings, or do you need a break? They're like, no, I can still do this, blah, blah, blah.
yeah.
It's like, what's wrong with these people? Like, what did I did I did I did I give you a potion or something? Like, because they're just so committed, Sometimes I'm
Yeah,
the one who's shy that I can work only for half a day, and they're doing a lot of things, on their plate, but they don't really complain because they enjoy what they are doing.
sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And don't you think too that you're handing things to others to do that maybe are the things that aren't quite as, they don't come as easy for you, right? They're things that they can, and so you're handing them things that they can thrive in. And sometimes it looks like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could handle a whole schedule of doing the work that I'm asking them to do. But for them, it might be just the right stuff.
Right, exactly. And I think for us business owners, sometimes it's not about how many tasks we need to do. It's how many tasks we need to think about, right?
Yes.
Like our brains, it's always up and running.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes actually, I'm kind of like you. I have a lot of ideas that I want to implement. Like I have a lot of plans, and sometimes my brain just wanted to be stimulated all the time, So I think it's not all about how many tasks you can do in a day. It's about how many tasks can your brain handle, because
Yeah.
With other responsibilities that we have, like making sure that you can pay people on time, making
Mhm.
sure that you have enough, cash flow, making sure that you're taking care of your team. They may not be like a daily or a day-to-day task, but those are big responsibilities. Just knowing that you have like 50 or 70 people in your business, and if you don't run your business effectively or successfully, those people are not going to have food on their table,
Right.
right? So I think it's also our capacity, our brain's capacity. We also have to consider that, and not only the tasks that we need to carry on a day-to-day basis.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if I think about delegating, I think there's delegating tasks, right? And then a level up from that. And by the way, I need to cite the source for this. Tim Francis. I first heard him share this. And anyway, that's all I can tell you. But Tim Francis said this, you can delegate tasks. And then a level up from that is that you delegate projects, which is a whole collection of tasks. And I think a level up from that is you delegate outcomes. And I think that's where we want to get. And I wouldn't just bring somebody in and immediately delegate an outcome. Like you have to show that you can handle the tasks and then the projects and then the outcomes. But you want to get to a place where you have people that you can delegate outcomes to them. And then they figure out the projects and the tasks that achieve the outcomes.
I love that, and I 100% agree. So, as we wrap up, what do you want to say to those people who are not letting go of control in their business, but they want to achieve more? They want to achieve growth, they
Yeah.
want to scale, but they just couldn't let go.
Yeah. I think that the key is just to start somewhere. If you could take account for the things that you spend your time doing throughout the week, there's going to be an 80-20 in the stuff that you do, where the things that 80% of the impact that you make with the time you spend is things that you spend only 20% of your time doing. And I think oftentimes people hesitate to delegate because they say, well, I don't see what ROI I'm going to get from this person that I'm delegating to. But the focus that I would encourage you to look at it another way is to look at the impact that you could make. How much more ROI could you generate personally by delegating 80% of the things that you're working on to somebody else, and then making time for more of that high impact, high value work, the 20% stuff. And so I would just say, if you make an account for the things that you're doing right now, find some things that you can delegate and then use that space that you free up to create more value. And then once you've done it, do it again. And you can do it again and again and again. And you can keep doing it as you level up. In EOS, they call that delegate and elevate. So you delegate something and then you elevate to the next level of something that you're more passionate about, something that you can bring more value with. And there's always room to continue to do that and to let go of more and more.
Right. I love that. And you're right. You may not be able to get a return on investment monetarily, but you're getting a return on your energy, time, and the energy and the time that you have. You need to use that wisely, and you need to use those hours and energy on tasks and responsibilities that are revenue generating to your business. You're the one who's going to bring your business monetarily, value. That's the
Yeah.
return on investment, by getting a return on your time.
Yes, and even monetarily. So even though it feels like these other things, you're going to see a monetary return on that investment because of the things that you're freed up to be able to do.
Exactly. Any last words of wisdom you want to leave before we end this episode?
No, I would just say if anybody is looking for help, either with their, first of all, with learning about EOS, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. You could also go to eosworldwide.com and search the implementer directory for Jeremy Harrison. There's actually a lot of great implementers on there. So there may be somebody in your own community as well that could be a great person to talk to. And then also my agency, spiread.com. We are actually helping teams at the sales and marketing level begin to recognize the strengths of your team and find those hidden strengths on your team that you can bring out to achieve the things that you need to do to be more effective, to get your sales and marketing at one table.
Awesome. I will include all your links in the show notes, but Jeremy, thank you so much for your time today. It's a wonderful episode. I love having a conversation with you, and I'm sure our listeners are enjoying our conversation as well. Hopefully.
Thanks, Christy. It's my pleasure.
Thank you.